have another, I do have another comment. I hope you don't mind if I bop, and if you can give me another chance later. I just want to share the link to the meeting.
Sure.
But then, so that's the point with that, is that they're not keeping it up to date in terms of the inventory, as far as I can tell, for the street, the sidewalks at all. They may be doing it for the park, but I didn't get a response saying that they had any updates on the inventory. And I think that it is important to keep it updated if you're going to track the open space plan. And I think it's, so anyway, so that's just that, my end of what I found out about that. And thanks again, Emily.
Okay, thanks. Marco, did you have any public comment?
No, thanks.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for coming. So I did just start recording. Thanks everyone for being here. Are there any modifications to the agenda? Sebastian?
Yeah, if we could add in the Kingston Point Beach gate. Not sure what else to say about it, but that, yeah.
Okay, how do people feel about adding in a discussion about the Kingston Point Beach gate?
Sure.
Anybody have issue with it?
Sure.
Where's Emily, Lorraine?
No, that's fine.
Okay, I also want to add in USGS stream gauges. There's new information that came about since last week when I posted the agenda. So is everyone okay if we talk about USGS stream gauges under old business?
Yep.
Emily, Lorraine?
Yes.
Okay, so USGS stream gauges will be letter G under old business, and Kingston Point Beach Gate will be letter A under new business. Any other?
I guess while I don't have any real updates on the septic policy in terms of the city front.
Okay, but I think Emily wanted to discuss something
Okay.
related to the EMC on that. Any other changes? All right, then moving on to review and approval of the March 2021 minutes. I saw Emily's notes come through.
Yeah, Lorraine sent me something that I missed, and I didn't go back to the last month's YouTube thing, and I have it here, unless you want to read it, Lorraine. Here it is. Emily's comments are fine. I think you asked one question about under the zoning as to what the secret was for, and it was for the zoning. You have to do a secret review on when you do a zoning change. So I'll add that in as well as your comments. And
Thank you.
Lorraine's comments are under wood burning. Michelle pointed out that since there have been 2 wood burning projects recently permitted, the planning board needs to understand going forward that they need to adhere to the code. Kevin suggested the CAC send the applicable science in a letter to the planning board proposed by Lorraine. Marco asked if the planning board is unaware of the code as it relates to air pollution or whether there is a communication issue. Julie responded that the issue is that the planning board is permitting something that the code disallows. We're okay with that?
I would just say we discussed it.
Okay.
Leave it as that.
Agreed.
I don't think we need that detail.
Yeah. Okay. We discussed the code. We discussed the planning board, or the planning board and the code.
We discussed the code with relation to the planning board.
Got it. Okay, then that's, are we good, Lorraine?
Yeah, if that's what people would like to in there, that's fine.
And we got the changes in then.
I highlighted the time where we adjourned, because I had in my notes that we adjourned at 8:20.
Oh, okay.
It's far different than 7:46 when you had. mean, we could look back at the tape, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
you can. Yeah, you're probably right.
All right, well, I'll look back at the tape and then I'll post whatever the time was before I post it. All right. Hold on. Okay, so are there any other changes or concerns with the minutes? If not, I need a motion to accept the March 16th, 2021 minutes as amended.
I motion to accept the meeting minutes as amended.
Okay, Emily, second from Sebastian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Lorraine, what was your vote?
Aye.
Okay, great. Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for putting those together and everyone for your comments. All right, so moving on to old business, wood smoke and air quality subcommittee. Lorraine?
Let's see. Oh, let me just make sure. Can you hear me? Let's find out. Oh, yes, you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
First thing is, I wanted to mention that something significant happened in Massachusetts this week, which was that a biomass plant that had been proposed for many years, decades actually, in Springfield, was barred from proceeding because the research, the reason given was the research on burning wood shows it causes serious health effects. The governor of Massachusetts stated it was incompatible with the state's climate change energy agenda and the responsibility to protect residents' health. So I listed a link for that. That article quotes Mary Booth, PhD, the director of the Partnership for Policy Integrity, as saying that to demonstrate real climate leadership, the Commonwealth should stop subsidizing wood burning entirely and focus on truly clean energy solutions. So that was a big something that I'm hopeful New York will learn from. I wanted to mention that
Lorraine, we lost you on sound. If you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
And I also spoke this month to an air quality class at Bard. I wanted to mention that this climate action plan results are in, as I think Julie is going to be mentioning, and that there were several comments opposing wood burning within the city for health and environmental reasons on the survey. So there was no consensus in sending the letter that we discussed on Hutton Brickyards at our last meeting. And we had agreed at that meeting that a letter could be both generic and specific to that project. So as you all know, because I sent it to you last week, I reworked the letter and used mainly Emily's template, added a few things, including the mission statement, the air quality mission statement, and the science that Kevin recommended we put in there, and had worked initially with both Marco and on the science and Kevin, as we talked about at the meeting last month. So I wondered whether you had all gotten to look at it and whether you have any comments. I haven't seen any comments come through on the document. So maybe we could.
I modified it today, just with some grammar. I didn't change anything substantive.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, or are we okay with it?
I'm not okay with it, and I didn't have time to work on it. I just think we need more time, and I just didn't have time to work on it this month. But I'm not okay sending it.
Okay, can you give some ideas about why, or?
Um, I I just think that we need to be really careful about the language and decide what point we're making and what we want the planning board to do. And it's just going to take more time.
Okay, so is it reasonable to say, to set a date of maybe April 30th that we could get this done by? So that more projects don't come along without any kind of discussion on this?
Not me. I'm going to be out of town for most of that time.
Well, that's unfortunate. So how do you see this fitting into your schedule? When would that be possible for you?
Probably by the next meeting.
So could you send us some comments by the next meeting? So maybe we could then all agree or disagree at the meeting?
Has everyone commented on the letter? Is this just me that's supposed to do this?
I asked everyone to comment, and I just asked you all now if you have any comments, because I didn't receive any. Julie just responded, and I haven't heard from anyone else.
I haven't had time to do it. I've been like swamped.
Okay. Sebastian, how about you?
Yeah, I also haven't had time to review it. Yeah.
All right, so then let's give this till the next meeting, and everyone should review it and provide comments in the Google Doc before the next meeting so that we can make a decision at that meeting. So Lorraine, when I did my comments, I worked right in the live Google Doc. I didn't do them as a comment submission. I just modified the document itself.
Okay.
And now I realize that you wouldn't have seen what the changes were.
Yeah, okay. So
Do you want folks to add them as comments, or do you want folks to make changes right in the doc live?
let's say comments so that we can keep it straight. That would be great.
Okay.
We
All right.
Okay.
the link again, because I seem to have misplaced it. I don't know. I'm just lost here. I just don't see it.
Sure.
She sent an email on the
Searching and I don't see it.
9th.
It was on the April 9th.
I just threw it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. I'll
Thank
pick up the
you.
link from there.
Thank you, Sebastian.
No problem.
The link.
Okay.
Okay, I just had one more item, which is that Dr. Eli Duker was interviewed by John Bowermaster about air quality in Kingston and the CACI initiative. He told me recently, so I'm including the link here, and the interview apparently begins at minute 35, just so you know. And that's it for now. Just Marco, do you have any updates for us on CACI?
Yeah, so I think since the last meeting, actually probably just a few days after the last meeting, the Murphy Center weather station went up. So I'll put a link to the dashboard with those data in the chat. That's also linked to from the city, from the CIC website on the subcommittee page. So this updates, it's currently set, up until this point, it's currently set to update every 3 hours, but I just recently changed it to every hour. But it logs data more frequently than that. It just reads out to the server every hour. But so it'll just show you the current conditions. We have the capacity to monitor. Currently, what's being monitored is barometric pressure, temperature, relative humidity, dew point, wind speed, wind direction, and soon to be rain. My goal was to get the rain gauge up this week, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for another 2, unfortunately. But We have a similar station up at Bard, so we're kind of slowly building this climate observatory program. And we also just took down the particulate matter sensors that we had deployed in and outside of a Kingston community member's residence on First Avenue. So the trial period was supposed to be 3 weeks, but it actually ended up being longer just because we didn't need them for anything else. And, you know, it's our first one. So I think having more data is better. So I just retrieved those today. We'll be going through those data in conjunction with the sort of daily diary entries that the community member made, which should be interesting. And then we also put up sensors at another residence on Fair Street, I think a few days after the meeting as well, the last meeting. So those data are being collected ongoing. And I think that's it for now. We've been meeting with Eli's data analysis course with the students. They've been checking out the residential data that we gave them, as well as Owen O'Connor has been really great at co-locating our newer sensor to our older sensor, as well as the air quality egg, which is a more low-cost sensor that's been on the roof as well. So he's just doing sort of a bunch of quality control and assessment with the different technology that we've been using. And he's an invaluable asset to that, to the team. So I think that's it for now.
Did you, what is the status of grounding that system on?
I haven't heard from Patrick. So I followed up with him after I waited, then didn't hear from him, then reached out to you and emailed him, and then didn't hear from that. And then I followed up with him again, and I still haven't heard. So
Okay.
I don't know, maybe he's just like really swamped or something, but
He is really swamped, but I will reach out to him to have him connect with you.
okay, cool. Yeah, I just need like a quote from him on like what it's going to cost on our end, but I think we should be able to provide funding for that.
Okay.
So
I had one question because it was in the minutes and I forgot to say anything about it, but I believe that you're collecting weather data as opposed to climate data. And could you explain, because the term climate was used in the minutes, but it seems to me
yeah, I mean,
climate's a long-term thing and that you're looking at the weather.
It is weather data. They've just been like these stations that we've been building have been referred to within the context of this sort of community science coalition, which received sort of a lot of like, you know, the funding to do this work last year as climate observatories. I didn't coin that terminology for these, but I mean, I think overall, I mean, they're meant to be long-term deployments. So, and sort of like regional, I mean, it's similar instrumentation that's used by, you know, different agencies and municipalities that monitor this stuff. So I don't exactly know the particular reason that this project has been referred to as a climate observatory project, but I'm just going by that.
Well, thank you and I assume that you know that the Hudson River Research Reserve has had a weather station at the Bard Field Station for decades, if you need that data.
Yeah, I have, we are in contact with the folks at the field station, namely Hudsonia. I don't know how much contact we've had with, is it Herner that is collecting that?
Yes, the Herner, and
yeah.
that's all live online, and you can get all the data sets for, you know, for how long. I mean, I just retired from there, and it was, and I worked there 20 years and they've been collecting that long. So it's all online.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Emily, when you reference climate data, what different parameters would be collected instead?
Well, I think it's just the long-term trends of the weather that
Right.
would give you more information on the trend, on the climate.
Okay, same parameters, different timeline.
Yeah.
I knew about that weather station, but I didn't realize the sort of ease of access. So that's really good to know. for the
I'll look
future.
up, I'll send the information to you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great. Also, the DEC letter that we all finalized was submitted to DEC earlier in March. And so that was all sent out. Thanks everyone for working on that. Anything else from the air quality subcommittee?
No, I just wanted to ask Marco to clarify if I understood you to say, Marco, that you had taken, retrieved both monitors from Fair Street and First Avenue.
No. We just retrieved the monitors from First Avenue.
Oh,
And
okay.
we put the ones up at Fair Street up, I think the same day we erected the weather station on the roof of the Murphy Center. So that one's still ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, anything else on that agenda item?
I think I'm gonna have to go relatively soon, just a warning. But thanks for having me as always.
Yes,
Thank
thank you, Marco, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so then moving on to anything we need to discuss related to the open space plan, conservation board status, or housing nexus with those things.
Yeah, I've been doing, when I have time, just trying to find a town that has published how they've had their conservation council become a board, or their environmental commission, the various different names they go under. And I found that Phillipstown had some stuff online, which I'm sifting through. And I still have to follow up, I think, on Bedford to, because they did it so long ago, to get their procedures as to how they did it.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's
So-
interesting. Phillipstown, we've had an interface with them with our refrigerants work.
Mhm,
They've had
yep.
a lot of good outreach about their refrigerants work. So it seems like they're putting a lot of effort into promoting the work that they're doing and getting the word out. So I'd be interested to see in their transition. And I don't know if their CAC or conservation board had anything to do with the refrigerants, or if that was coming from the municipality itself, but.
As I sort through their minutes and documents, we'll get the answer to that, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, great.
I'm just gathering the information where I can get it from. I think the other municipalities I looked at was Bedford, that was the first one. New Paltz, town of New Paltz was the second one. But neither one of those was clear as to how the enabling legislation was worded. That's what I'm looking for. The enabling legislation, like the whereas and the be it resolved type thing. That'll tell you exactly what the powers and responsibilities are of the board.
Kevin, if
Yeah.
if these become dead ends or anything, I was speaking to a friend who's the town supervisor of Rhinebeck, and she mentioned the enabling legislation specifically, and it seemed to have it fresh in her mind. I could send an email and just see if maybe they have it on hand.
Yeah, that would be good. Are they a board?
Yeah, they became a board, and then this is the part that I wasn't aware of, but yeah, she was describing how they had to pass, the town board had to pass legislation to basically, I think, just enable all of the planning documents to go through the town board or the board conservation board first or second, I don't know what in the process.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that would be great, if we had, somebody up here. Phillipstown we can get in touch with too. So yeah, the more the better, yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to her.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that the town, did you say? The
Yeah,
town
the
of
town of-
Rhinebeck?
Town of Rhinebeck.
Cool.
I see a note from Tanya that you'd like to make a comment. Go ahead, Tanya.
Oh, thanks. So I wanted to make a quick comment about the new zoning code. And so it's been, the funding's been approved by the Common Council, so that will be starting soon. That will have a total code rewrite headed by Dover Cole, and it'll be a form-based code. And I got a chance to listen to last month's meeting, and that the county and housing versus open space. And I think we're really in a really good position right now because we're about to do a form-based code, which is put together using basically a transect, which is often used in nature, but it's the way that it's laid out is not so much use, but about how the public realm is shaped. And we'll have so many new opportunities to create housing because it'll allow things that are not allowed now. It'll allow a lot more smaller incremental development, but it really does dictate how the public realm is shaped. So instead of requiring a certain number of units in a building or not more than, it talks about the building envelope and what the experience is outside. So there'll be a lot, it's more about what you have to do than what you can't do. And it really is an amazing sprawl fighter. So it'll do both. We were in a position now where we can preserve open space more than we ever have. And also people will have much more of an ability to, on the smaller and larger scale, build housing units or develop housing units. And then I also wanted to say that I'm glad that that's in the horizon. I'm worried currently about open space in the forest, that the round out the Hudson Uplands. There are 3 things that are sort of endangering that area. The Hunt and Brickyards parking lot. They just bought the Courts Mansion, and they knew that they were going to buy the Courts Mansion before they even put their application before the planning board, but they decided not to include it in their master plan. And they're putting a parking lot, which is across the street from the Courts Mansion. So they want to cut down a bunch of trees right near where there's already trees cleared. It's an archaeologically significant place all around there, including on the Courts Mansion. So all of it would have to be done with great care. But the plan as it is pretty bad. They want to just tear down a bunch of trees to put in a parking lot. And I don't think that the whole thing was been looked at. Then there's the 10 acres that are above the Kingston Business Park that are one of the parcels that the Common Council agreed to let the mayor give to the land bank if that was decided that it was appropriate. So the land bank doesn't have it right now, but it might be one of the parcels that maybe it shouldn't go to the land bank, because that would be terrible if it was developed. It's on 3 sides, 10 acres, 3 sides by the future state park and 1 side by the Kingston Business Park. And then thirdly, the Kingston Business Park in the Hudson Uplands, I don't think that it's very clear to the KLDC where they're supposed to not touch. A quick look at their website shows them proposing development by taking down trees, and it's pretty worrisome. So we've got a lot of hope coming up with a better zoning code, but there are some things that are immediately a little bit worrisome. Thank you. Really appreciate you letting me talk for so long.
No problem. Yeah, and we did as a council submit comments for the Hunt and Brickyards. Those are public. Kevin is going to be involved with you with the zoning procedure moving forward, right, Kevin?
Yes.
So representing the CAC and others moving forward. So we're actively involved with that. So we're interested in how this process will move forward as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, Tanya, if there's like a specific action or anything that you think the CAC could take, that would be great too. And let us know. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think that just being involved in the zoning code rewrite, there'll be that opportunity. It's going to be very heavy in the public engagement So the CAC is going to have a ton of opportunity to make sure that that these concerns are of the CAC are in there.
I'll just mention, Tanya had touched on the business park. They have on their website, they've identified where the Kingston megalith is. And how have they identified, you asked? What they've done is proposed a building and a parking lot right on top of it.
Hmm.
Yep.
What's the megalith?
It's an archaeological site at the business park on the west side of the parking lot. It's sort of like a mini Stonehenge. It's partially collapsed. It's these very large boulders in a circular pattern. It was documented during the environmental review of the business park, and it was supposed to be fenced in and protected. Instead, the poison ivy grew up around it, and that's essentially protected it all these years, that they've had the business park. But yeah, they don't seem to know. I don't know how to phrase that politely, so I won't. Yeah, it's a question. Let's put it that way.
And I assume part of the idea is to protect it. So is it mapped anywhere
In the secret review, yes.
in the secret review for the business
Yeah.
park?
Yeah, Hartgen did it. There wasn't Joe Diamond. This was Hartgen. And they referred to it as a rock shelter. And I went up there once with Christoph Lindner from Bard, and he looked at it and said, that's not a rock shelter. That's something far different from a rock shelter. It's been discussed as being either a ceremonial point or something connected to water underneath the mountain, because the caves run under, there's an underground lake there. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's been discussed with a lot of speculation, but we don't need to go into that now. But it's just that, I had mentioned this to a couple of the board members there, and they were just sort of didn't seem to really know about it. And they just said to talk to Amanda. Who's the
Amanda.
Amanda Brooks. She's the administrator for the business park.
Oh, okay.
We do have a couple of people that used to be on the Climate Smart Commission there on the business park board, Pat and Miles. So that might be a discussion too.
Thank you. Going back to the rest of the part of that piece of the agenda, the EMC, members of the EMC did express at this last meeting that they were interested in finding out more about how to become a board. And so I think Julie and we had discussed some way of kind of, just educating people that way. And I'm not sure. So they are interested. So we just have to decide if this is like a conversation with the state association, or, if Julie or someone else wants to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to come to the next EMC meeting and talk about the process as the vice president of the New York State Association, I'd be happy to do that.
And, okay. And do you feel like we have enough information about examples? Because it sounded like we're still doing the homework on that. I mean, do you want a couple months, or do you want to?
Yeah, I would say we probably need a couple months.
Okay.
So maybe the beginning of summer.
Okay, and sometimes they take August off, and
Right.
so, okay.
Um,
I'll communicate.
Emily, could anybody from New Paltz provide any, shed some light on it?
There isn't anyone in New Paltz that's on the EMC,
Okay,
so it would just be like inviting Julie. We'd have to invite one of them to
yeah.
present.
okay.
So who would that be?
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I'd have to
Um,
research that one too.
Yeah, I mean, I know someone who just left that board, but when did they become a board?
That was what I was trying to determine. I couldn't find the enabling legislation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it could have been 10 years ago, it could have been. Yeah, all
And
right,
sometimes you go through these things and you find out there, that's why I need the enabling legislation, because sometimes you go through this whole process and you find out they're not a board at all. They're a commission or a council like we are. They just call themselves a board. I think I went through that in Long Island. I forget, maybe it was
Yeah.
Town of Huntington. And I was like, bingo, I got the Town of Huntington board, and it turned out they weren't.
yeah,
So,
Okay, so yeah, let's revisit that next month to see where we
Okay.
are. I can certainly commit to an EMC meeting moving forward.
okay.
all right.
Anything else on that agenda topic? All right,
Let me
so any updates on, or anything we want to discuss about the Hutton Brickyard?
Wait, wait, you're so fast. I'm still thinking about this.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Um, I'm so sorry. Is, okay, sorry, I'm okay.
Okay, we can, if you need more time, it's okay. I didn't mean to rush anyone.
Nope,
Okay. So anything with the Hutton Brickyard development review?
yeah, there is. It's gonna be back at the planning board. And they're gonna be discussing the public access. And there is a they submitted a public access plan prior to the last planning board and prior to the Heritage Area Commission. Yeah, and the Heritage Area Commission, we approved of it with conditions. The conditions included, we put a zoning provision in that we'd seen in certain comments from, I think, yeah, there were a lot of public comment, and we saw that mentioned in there. I think it was 405-25C2 or 2C, I don't remember, but it provides for a permanent easement for public access to the Hudson River. And they did propose to have access to the Hudson River. The easement would make it permanent if it were, if there were an agreement to that effect. The other thing we put in, I think Tanya had touched on this, was we had discussed the archaeology. Hartkin came out to review Joe Diamond's work opposite Quartz Mansion on Lindsley Avenue. And Joe Diamond and Hartkin concurred that encapsulating the site with stone, crushed stone and gravel, and as long as the parking lot isn't paved, that would serve to preserve intact the archaeology. So they could move forward with that.
And
then-
was that spoken or told to the Hutton Brickyard folks?
Well, they had, yeah, well, Suzanne's been in touch with them. That's a planning board thing.
Okay,
Suzanne sent me a copy of the letter because I was aware of the archaeology. I was the person that brought up the archaeology. Apparently, I think Chazen knew about this because they did the site plan for Sailor's Cove, but they didn't discuss it at all. And Joe, I had a discussion on another matter with Joe Diamond, and this came up, and Joe was furious that they were just, barreling through an archaeological site, especially it was a site that he'd worked on. And so I relayed that to Suzanne. She asked me for the Sailor's Cove documents, which are probably someplace at City Hall, but we're not sure where. And they reviewed it, with the Brickyard people, and Hartkin came in and wrote the letter. They reviewed, I don't know if they went to the site or not, but they looked at it in any event and gave a letter of no impact based upon encapsulating the site, as I just mentioned. So I think the archaeology is kind of done there. They did knock down a lot of trees, though. They did do that. But That is what it is. The last thing we did on Hutton at the Heritage Commission was at the end, we have, 40 some odd policies. And policy 41 relates to air quality. So what we put in there was if the wood burning restaurant, which isn't really discussed in their site plan, it's only the fire pits, as far as I can tell. They mention the restaurant, but they don't mention that as wood burning. That's in promotional literature that's kicking around. We put in that if there is a monitor, a future monitor, put someplace, Kingston Point Park or someplace in Pankaki, wherever, where, and it registered increased levels of PM 2.5, they would have to revisit the wood burning. That met with no objection.
So you're asking them to put in a monitor?
No, I doubt they're going to want to put the monitor in. Lorraine and Marco can discuss the protocols on the monitors. That's a whole separate thing. We just put in some enabling language that if there is a monitor, they will have to revisit wood burning. There is a monitor and the monitor registers increased PM 2.5. They'll have to address that issue. They didn't object to the zoning provision that we put in either, although we did have some back and forth with Joe Ariel, their attorney. I did back and forth, but he agreed, as long as we weren't overreaching on it, which we weren't. We just mentioned that, public access is what the principal public comment here, and that would probably go a long way to doing it if you enable permanent public access. The gate is still an issue, and that's beyond the Heritage Area Commission's scope, so we didn't comment on that.
And so you're saying that if there was an air quality monitor and there was some kind of spike, but that would mean that you'd need baseline information and
Yep.
someone monitoring it, and then, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'd had a discussion with Lorraine about trying to find somebody down in Pankaki that could install this now before they start doing this and just see what it's, get at least a month of baseline. But so far that volunteer hasn't appeared.
Yeah, that would have to be part of the CACI system of working with the community science lab, somebody coming forth with a concern.
Oh, we could put one at the Point.
I'm sorry?
We could put one at Kingston Point.
I think that would make sense, yeah. Definitely.
Sebastian?
I don't know. I'm thinking about Kingston Point, and there's a boat launch there. I imagine the other sensor would be impacted too at the Hutton Brickyards, but just wanting to be, if the goal is to monitor wood smoke pollution from the campfires, just wanting to control for as many external factors as possible by making sure the location is as close as possible to them.
Well, there's also a flow of oil delivery trucks all day long, every day from the terminus of Kingston Point.
Yeah, which is one reason Emily is correct. We need to have baseline data. So, yeah. So, Julie, if you want me to contact, well, Marco's here and we can get that going if that's something. I mean, if you think Kingston Point is a good idea, which I do.
Right, but what we're saying is there's a lot of other factors that are going to could throw that off.
But there would be baseline data before the project started and you would see a difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I would say it is an extremely not secure location for a monitor.
Well, like where at Kingston Point, like what are the boundaries that are, plausible for deploying a monitor at Kingston Point?
Well, it has to be plugged in, so it would have to be at the pavilion or the maintenance shed.
Well,
Something in the
there's ways
pavilion.
around the power. I mean, we could configure some sort of solar thing, which would kind of circumvent that.
if you could figure out some kind of solar thing, the closest thing I could do would be to put something on my kayak shed. The kayak shed is the closest building to the Hutton Brickyards.
Yeah, let me bring it up. Let me bring it up with the gang. I think we could figure that out.
But it would have to be on the roof of it.
Yeah, it would need adequate sun exposure. But then, I mean, I don't think that the monitor we would put up would be a Quant AQ, which doesn't, I don't think it pulls a ton of power. So moderate sun exposure is probably fine as well. I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, if Marco or Lorraine or all of us, if we want to meet down in Kingston Point and just look around, we can. I wouldn't be thrilled with just putting it in the pavilion and just plugging something into the plug in the pavilion. It's not going to stay for more than like 15 minutes.
No, we definitely need probably a more remote setup for this, which is possible. I'll get back to you guys on that.
Okay.
I actually have a spare solar panel, and I'm thinking about it, that we're not using, but I'm not sure if it would be configurable for that sensor. I have to look into that.
Okay. All right. Anything else on Hutton Brickyards? Okay. Any updates on the Ashokan environmental review? Oh, I submitted the resolution to the council that we asked them to adopt to hold the DEP or the city's feet to the fire. That is on the laws and rules agenda for the 21st at 6:30, and I will be going representing the CAC. If anyone else would like to go, you're welcome to come. I can send you the link if you would like. Again, it's the 21st at 6:30 on laws and rules. I did talk to Alderman Tollerman, who is one of the aldermen who's been the most vocal about his discontent with the Muddy Creek, and he is 100% behind us. So he will definitely speak up on behalf of it. And I don't see that there would be any other issue. And they would then vote on it as a full council at the May 4th meeting.
And this was discussed this whole issue was discussed in the Water Quality Community Committee, Coordinating Committee yesterday. And so just to review, there is a subcommittee that's looking at this and really digging down deeply into the alternatives and some of the alternatives that New York City came up with that New York City, kind of went through this list of other options and chose not to explore them deeply. And anyway, so this committee that is composed of different people in Ulster County, different agencies and so on, they are working on this, and they are not going, they're working on a much more comprehensive and more detailed comments, and they're going to put them in like in June, like right at the deadline. They're not constrained by the timing that the city has. And so they will probably be sharing that information and it's going to be good information just to learn. And and then it can also be seconded by other groups if those groups are interested. So I'm hoping that, they'll put some really substantial comments in. So thank you for moving that forward.
Any other discussion on the Ashokan or Asopus?
The other Ashokan project, Premier.
Yeah,
I think the close of comment was yesterday. I didn't get comments in on that. I don't know that Greg Shaheen had time to do this, or Sarah Brainerd for the land trust. It's out of our scope, I think, because it's, it's,
Well, and according to
Woodland
the
Valley.
according to
was
the
one
media
of the
today,
places.
the application was withdrawn.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Right.
was?
It,
I
it-
thought I heard
Today?
that
It's in today's paper.
Today?
today. Okay.
they're
Yeah.
potentially going to resubmit it for another area in Ulster County. The Rondo Reservoir, the Neversink area.
So, sorry.
Well,
I
yeah,
I
know.
just think that this is a really, really good example of not engaging stakeholders ahead of time in a project that you're interested in pursuing. So,
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
All right, anything else on Esopus or Ashokan work? Okay, so moving on to water quality. Emily, or Sebastian, I know you said that there hasn't been much advancement on your end, but Emily, you had brought it up and maybe there was an interest from the EMC on something?
yeah, they did say they were interested, and so they would love it if Sebastian came in and talked, because I'm not willing to talk, or someone. And I also mentioned it at the water quality coordinating committee as something that maybe they would be interested in. I just mentioned it. There was no one responded. I didn't really ask them a question. So I think, they're interested. I don't know how far it would go.
I'm happy to do that. I might, if you would be willing, I have a document that I've been trying to like edit down a little bit that has a little bit of information about this, and I would include just the resolutions that the town of Bolton and Queensbury passed.
Mhm.
And we could talk about those. I don't know what they're looking for in terms of a presentation or discussion. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I don't think they know either.
Okay.
So they sounded like it was they were interested. And when you look at the communities, if you discount anything that's in the watershed, then it's a smaller subset of Ulster County.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So okay, and that again, I don't think there's a rush on that either, right?
Not on my end, but when is the next
Yeah.
EMC meeting?
Well, they meet the last Wednesday. So in this case, this last meeting was on the 5th Wednesday. And they meet, so they meet the last Wednesday.
Okay.
So whatever, I think the next one is the 28th or something. And then sometimes they take July and August off, but there's been more interest of meeting.
Okay.
So
Maybe for May? The 26th.
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll check with the chair.
Okay. Anything else on that topic?
And then I guess the non-update update would just be, I need to check back in with Greg. We had kind of left off that he was going to look into, talk to the plumbing inspector, I think. And that was our kind of last communication on that. And I have yet to follow up with him on it to see how it went. So that's yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, planning for a visioning meeting. We had started talking about that a couple months ago, and I think we're going to continue to think about that. I'd like to revisit that in May, give it a little bit of time to see where we kind of think about what we want to do with visioning and where we want the CAC to go. Emily gets to hear a lot about what's happening at the other EMC, about what other CACs are doing. And I'd like folks to kind of take some time to look back on the CAC's website, where all of our meeting minutes have been since 2008, and just kind of look at what we have done over the years to understand where we have come. And then that will help kind of give us some guidance on where maybe we should go and how we should involve the public with having that kind of conversation. So if you go on to kingston-ny.gov/KingstonCAC, all the previous minutes and all the previous agendas are there. And, Emily and Kevin have been here for a long time and kind of have been involved in knowing what's been going on. And Lorraine and Sebastian bring, new perspectives. So it's a good conversation that I'd like to move forward. But for now, I think we should do a little bit more knowledge on our end before we kind of move forward with how we understand what needs to happen next. Is that all right with everyone? Okay. So USGS stream gauges. You all remember when Gary Wall came to meet with us like before the pandemic, and we talked about the Roundup stream gauge. And I hadn't heard anything about it since then. And on the 8th, he reached out to me and said that he's been speaking with the Maritime Museum and they want to remove the building. So
No, the little gauge building.
the shack thingy, yeah.
Mhm.
So he said before they remove the shack thingy or reuse it, he basically wanted a go or no go from the city as to whether or not we think we're ever going to replace the stream gauge. We're not in that position to make that decision right now. I don't really know what to tell him. I want to tell him leave it, but like I don't have any good reason to say leave it. I don't know. What do folks think? And it's not up to this group. It's not up to me for sure. Like it's really up to them. But I don't have a compelling reason to tell him, yeah, there's money ready, like bring it in. I don't know if anyone has any insight, any thoughts on what you think we should do about it. Like, how did we leave it the last time? Emily, how did we leave it?
Oh, well, I think it was the night before everything shut down, but I believe it just sounded to me like it would be really hard to get a group of people that found $20,000 worth of information out of it. And I mean, I actually think the Maritime Museum would be it's an excellent education device and that they would be interested in it, but apparently they aren't. So I don't know. It's disappointing, but I don't know how we can it's a big obstacle.
Yeah, and I also don't think that, like, if I say go ahead and take it out, not that I have the authority to do so, but if the mayor or whoever says we don't have anything going on, it's not like, well, it's stopping the possibility for the future forever having it again.
Right. I mean, what did they do? Do they put it on a truck and go put it in storage, or is there?
I mean, he said that they might even want to reuse it.
Somewhere else? Yeah.
So I don't know. Sebastian, were you going to say something?
I was just trying to think too. Yeah, the issue we had was that exactly what Emily outlined, where the only other thing I'm thinking of is like maybe now that I don't know how much value is kind of inherent in that structure that we'd be saving by keeping it. But would this be like a pitch? The only thing I'm thinking is like it's a county-wide benefit And would
Mhm.
the EMC, like if they knew that it was going to be removed? But that's not even the county, that's just the bunch of boards who reside in the county. We don't have someone from the county who we can talk to about this.
Well, the Department of the Environment,
Department of
They-
the Environment.
the Office of the Environment, they just,
Yeah.
yesterday there was the Water Quality Committee who met, and they had a speaker on the gauges, but it was much more about the gauges for the ESOPIS
Hmm.
and not for the tidal roundout. And he, I have to go back and look up his name.
Guy
So he-
Foster.
Yeah, right. Oh, you were on that, right?
Yeah.
And they never mentioned it. They actually said, anyways, so I didn't bring it up because it was much more about it was really interesting and how they get the data and how they calibrate everything and understanding turbidity.
Hmm.
And mostly, and specifically Lamont, the gauges at Lamontville and at Mount Marion.
All right, so,
Um,
I mean, I guess I'll talk to the mayor, I'll talk to Department of the Environment, Amanda. If both of them say, I don't know, like, I don't know what else I can say to Gary Wall besides,
mhm. Yeah, the one thing that I think Amanda is seeing is that she's looking at, and I don't quote me on this or anything, but there is evidence that the drinking water sites are observing the sediment coming out of the Ashokan, and
Hmm.
the drinking water facilities. And, would it help to have another gauge besides what's already gauged on the Hudson in the roundout, or not, just to track that and then ask New York City to pay for it? But it probably would be better off somewhere like closer to the Port Ewan, drinking water facility, as opposed, the cool thing about the gauge at the Maritime Museum is that it was capturing what was coming off the watershed and coming up the river.
I mean, alternatively, not alternatively, but one option is that, we could apply to Hudson River Estuary Program for a river education grant.
Right.
And get $50,000 and fund it for 5 years or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, that would be an idea. And you could be in cooperation with the Maritime or something.
I don't know. Do you think they would fund that? I mean, it
I have
is.
no idea.
Yeah. All right, well, let me see with the powers that be here and see what people want to do.
Thanks for looking into that.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. Okay, anything else on stream gauges? If not, we'll move on to new business. Sebastian, you want to talk about the gate at the point?
Yeah, I got an email about it this morning, and there were a couple of more that came in from community members. Tanya's up on this too. I'm going to quote you in the minutes if that's okay, Tanya, from the last, I think it's the Parks and Rec meeting.
Okay.
Or I'll let you, I mean, you're more than welcome to jump in too. But there was a gate that was installed by an anonymous donor at Kingston Point Beach. And residents have been now barred from accessing the beach because the gate hasn't been open timely in the mornings. There was a couple of people who weren't able to access the beach on Easter Sunday when they were out for bike rides. And so I wanted to bring it to our attention because that beach is, one of the few beaches on the Hudson River. It's one of the only beaches that a DEC defined environmental justice community has access to along the Hudson River. And I think we should be very involved with, or rather be understanding of what's going on right now. Kind of where did this come from? Whose authority did it go in under? How did that decision get made? Trying to address kind of the questions behind it. And then I really do feel like we should probably try to take a stand and write a letter to the mayor, because it seems like the mayor, from the minutes at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, told them that it was paid for by this anonymous donor, and it was installed as a result of frequent illegal activity and damage occurring after dark. It really just seems like an issue of a wealthy glamping thing being put in next door to a public beach, somebody not wanting residents at that public beach in the evenings or whenever, and then funding anonymously a gate to be put up there that then bars people from this community from accessing their riverfront. So I think there are kind of two issues. One is the access issue, and then the other is kind of the understanding how these decisions get made and at what point they should interface with the CAC, and then the other councils as well.
I mean, I can, nothing you're saying, I mean, the gate was installed with the concern of vandalism at Kingston Point. We still have vandalism at Kingston Point, even with the gate there. And the gate itself has been vandalized multiple times. And we have installed Wi-Fi and security cameras at Kingston Point, and we still have vandalism. And what you said is about the mayor saying, the mayor's, approved putting that in. He directed the police department to be the ones opening and closing it. It is on the police department to be opening and closing it. They're supposed to be doing it in the morning and evening every day. And it was put in by an anonymous donor. I mean, everything that you stated is not incorrect. So in terms of how it should be, if the CAC wants to submit something, certainly that can be the case. I will say I got 3 emails today that came to the CAC, and I don't know why that is the case. I don't know what gave folks an idea that the CAC has authority over it at all. But I did forward all 3 of them to the head of the Recreation Department, the head of DPW, and the mayor. So they did receive all 3 of those emails. I will say that there are certainly comments coming in from folks about concerned about the gate. I'm not sure we'll have to decide what action we want to take about it.
I just wanted to know who's on the call that is showing the Riverkeeper logo, because it's always nice to recognize our members.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, it's just yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's Rebecca Martin.
Rebecca.
Oh, all right.
All right, so we can
No,
put
I
that
didn't-
in the,
I
we
thought
can put
we
that in
were-
the minutes that you came in at 7 or so, 7:05. Thank you. Hello. I would say that I didn't understand what Park said. Was this addressed at a Parks Commission meeting or a Parks meeting?
Tanya, I'll let you. Yeah.
Hi, okay, so I was at the March Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, and I asked a question about the gate because I've been concerned about the North Front Street gate. At that point, the plan is it's gonna change every 6 months, the North Front Street gate, and so it was still during the sort of colder weather hours. So there was a lot of time before it opened and after it closed that there was daylight hours that were being, that there wasn't access to the trail. So I watched it a couple times in the morning to see who was coming by to try to access it. And that's when it occurred to me that this gate was also closed past past the hours that the gate was not being opened until after the North Street gate, to the gate that goes to the Hutton, to the, sorry, to the Brickyards Trail section of the Empire State Trail. That gate at the parking lot was opened later. So it was even more time that people say who came with their bicycles and wanted to park and go on the trail and park over there could get there. I called DPW dispatch, at that point, I think DPW was opening and closing the gate. I'm not sure if the person I talked to knew the ins and out. He was sort of kind of guessing what might be, but so he didn't know like details of stuff. But I think that he was saying, well, I think that they're not in at DPW until this hour, so maybe that's why it's not opened until then. So I don't know. I don't know if it's been fully to the police now or only partially. But I commented at Parks and Recreation, and the minutes they lost the video. They didn't record it, and the minutes are a little different than what I was remembering. They didn't put some stuff in here, but it says Commissioner Bird Blue mentioned that she reached out to Director Timbrook about calls she'd received regarding the Kingston Point gate being locked during operating hours. Since it's been addressed by KPD, she has not received any additional complaints. Tanya Garment asked to speak regarding the gate installed at entrance of Kingston Point Park. Tanya expressed concerns that, Tanya expressed concerns that the scenic Hudson Brickyards path having a gate as well. Residents have to wait until Kingston Point Park gate is opened at 7:30 each day. Tanya asked why Kingston Point Park gate was installed and if it was to be permanent. Director Trimbick explained that Mayor Noble informed the Rec Department and DPW that the gate was provided to the city of Kingston by an anonymous donor and was installed as a result of frequent illegal activity and damage occurring after dark. It was stated as a reminder that all city parks are open at from dawn to dusk, but some parks don't have gates. Tanya inquired about whether or not legislation was needed for the gate to be installed. Alderman Shabbat stated that he did not recall any legislation and that it is to be almost done here, that it is something that can be decided by the Rec Department. Tanya then made mention of the need for other forms of transportation, and the city expressed concerns of the gate at the entrance to Hutton Brickyards, which is seemingly city property. Commissioner Dassey asked who owned the Hutton Brickyards entrance. That's about the other gate. Anyway, yeah. And I just want to make a quick comment that how can we have an anonymous donor in Kingston? I mean, that happened also with the land bank had an anonymous donor too. But is that legal? Can we have anonymous donors? That doesn't seem like, even if it's not legal, that we should be doing that. Shouldn't we know where the money's coming from? I know that the Kingston Land Bank might be a little different because it's not totally the city of Kingston. I don't know how to even phrase how that is. But in this case, this is our parks and we've got people paying for things. And it certainly, I mean, I would guess it's the Hutton Brickyards people who are paying for this. I mean, or Peter Buffett again. Either way, not the best. So that's my 2 cents.
So if the parks are open from dawn to dusk, does that mean the parking lots have to be open?
From dawn to dusk, yeah.
There's a rule that says the parking lot themselves has to be open versus,
No, no, like at Hutton, like at Hasbrook, you can't drive up into Hasbrook in the middle of winter.
right,
Closed year round,
right.
but the
You can't drive up there and go sledding. You have to walk up the hill.
Right.
Yeah. How much of the park amenities have been funded by DEC?
at Kingston Point, the ramp to the bathrooms and the handicap accessible changing room.
Yeah, that's all. Okay.
Is that anonymous? I'm sorry. I'm just curious the relevance of that in this context.
Well, it's those, there's basically they're there paid by the DEC and they're not available to the public, the handicapped public, as much as they probably were when they were funded, because the gate is locked after dawn and maybe before dusk. That's the only, I'm just trying to see if there's anything that would be an issue there, you know, with funding being considered based on the use of the park. And
So what action is the CAC interested in taking with this? Like I said, I did forward the concerns to the relevant parties, but if the CAC itself wants to take action, I just don't know. What are folks suggesting?
I can address that, but I want to pause because Tanya raised her hand and then Rebecca has a question too. Tanya?
Tanya?
Oh, I did that accidentally.
Okay.
Okay, Rebecca?
I'm just curious if the park system has a comprehensive approach to its opening and closing from dusk to dawn. There seem to be 2 parks that have gates. I'm not sure how those decisions are made as to what parks have gates or what the protocol is for how those gates are open and closed, if the police also are responsible for opening and closing Hasbrook Park? Or is there some way that the public's involved in making decisions about what parks they have, what parks are gated, what parks are not? Just how those decisions are made. It seems like that could be within the purview of the CAC to help the public understand the public access pieces. Certainly, it makes sense that parks I think are probably closed from dusk to dawn, maybe nationwide, I'm not sure. But signage is helpful, things like that help people to understand what the rules are. So random gates appearing that limit public access, especially to a beach, to the water that the community the whole community kind of relies on. It's a change of procedure and it's helpful. I know the mayor sent out a newsletter last fall, but maybe there's something that can be done. Maybe it's the CAC, maybe it's the Public Safety Committee. Maybe it's just talking with the council to help to shape some sort of uniform procedure for parks in the city of Kingston. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and speak to the policies and practices of the Parks Department. I'm here as a liaison to the city, but it's coincidental that I work for the Parks Department. So, I mean, if there's action that the CAC wants to take, or there's questions that folks have regarding like why, how, or how things can be changed, I think that needs to be formally presented from this commission.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested in doing that, you know, to all of Rebecca's points that I think are well taken, and just looking at, I know we're going to think about this when we do our retreat too together, but you know, our job is to advise the planning board and common council on matters pertaining to the environment of the city. And I think that this kind of falls under that, especially access to the water. This is the only spot in the city that's a public beach. I think it's really germane that we do try to advise them on this. And I think framing it in the way that Rebecca suggested of having it be procedural might be a better tack than mine, which is a little bit more opinion based at the beginning when I launched into this. But it could really focus in on how are these decisions made? Why is it Kingston Point Beach and Hasbrook Park? Is it strictly from a public safety perspective?
There are other parks that are locked too, by the way.
There are other parks that are locked. Yeah, I guess. And then the other thing to it too, I mean, just like to put the obvious out there is like, dusk is not the same dusk, dawn is not the same dawn. Like 7:30 a.m. in the summertime is not 7:30 a.m. in December. And so there's a fixed hour that's put out there because people need to know when this happens, or the city needs to plan, or the Kingston Police Department needs to plan. But those hours are constantly moving and changing, and it does seem like they're not keeping up. At least in this most recent thing, they weren't keeping up with what the public was looking for. I'm going to stop because I'm losing myself a little bit, but I do think a letter possibly to the Common Council, and specifically, I think Michelle Hurst sits on the committee that we would need to talk to, asking about procedure and rules for deciding how this happens.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interject, Julie, but also what would be good to know is what is the procedure for the city accepting anonymous donations for a gate for a public park? Maybe that's totally fine, but as to Emily's point, when the city wins grants to purchase items for public spaces, it's not anonymous. There's ways to understand what things are and what we're using. I mean, I think it's important to understand where these things are coming from. Since it's a public space, it's a public park. So thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt. Thank you.
I don't think that, I mean, I think as citizens, we should be concerned about that. But I don't think it's a CAC thing. There are definitely people that can ask that question. Is a private citizen or, you know, as other NGOs, you know, because it is that accepting anonymous donations. Yeah, I don't know, but it does concern me as a private citizen. And I just feel like this is a parks issue. This is a police issue, and that it can be our issue because we're concerned about access and open space. It can be a handicapped issue because the thing is, most people, able-bodied people, can just park and walk in. And I'm sure that's what the vandals are doing. And that if you're going to make access to the park limited because people can't drive in, then you know they're not having as good a rights as everyone else. They're not able to access the park, and so that, and I understand, for instance, why Hasbrook is closed. I assume they close it because they have to. Are they going to plow that road, or are you going to have to walk up the hill anyway? So because they're not going to plow it. It is a big hill. Anyway, so my comment is, this is bigger than us, and it's bigger than us. It's a there's lots of issues. So I don't know where to go with it.
I will just say to Sebastian's comment that the council, besides acquiring land and divesting of parkland, doesn't have authority over how the parks are operated. So if anything were to be submitted, it would either be submitted to the rec commission or the rec director or the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
So is anyone making a motion to take action?
I'm happy to, if it is, Emily, I think you were right on with your comments of trying to keep them really focused on open space and access to open space. And I'd be happy to write a letter potentially addressed to the rec commission or the mayor that focuses on that.
Okay, what does everyone else, Kevin, Emily, Lorraine, think of that?
I'd be happy to take a look at it and,
Sure.
and decide whether or not are you saying you're going to do that? And then we would decide whether or not we feel like comfortable signing on as a group, as the CAC.
Yeah,
So we
that's fine.
can,
Yeah, I wouldn't go out without your revision or anything like that.
no,
Kevin, Lorraine, any input?
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it.
Yep, yep, okay.
Okay, so Sebastian, you want to draft something up and we'll take a look at it and then we
Yeah,
can
that sounds good.
finalize it at the next meeting?
Mhm. Tanya or Rebecca, do you have any other thoughts?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and I just want to also be clear that we're discussing, this discussion is about the gate at Kingston Point, not the gate on North Street, correct?
I'm thinking that. I do want to acknowledge though, if we are writing a letter from a perspective of saying that the public deserves to access to their parks, it might apply more broadly or be taken more broadly. I think we can focus just on this, but just wanted to acknowledge that it might, if we're saying that gates prohibiting access to public parks shouldn't be allowed, then there might be broader implications, and maybe the wording would have to be very careful.
Okay, so I guess we'll take a look at what you draft and we'll check it offline.
Sounds good.
Okay, anything else on that? I don't have any other communications. Are there any announcements or events? There is a Climate Action Plan 2030 public meeting coming up on the 20th at 5:30 to review the survey results and get folks' feedback on prioritization. So I encourage you all to come to that if you can. Any other announcements or events?
Mm-mm.
Okay, reports and updates, anything from Complete Streets, Lorraine?
Nothing right now. We have not met since last meeting.
Okay, Kevin, anything from Planning Board that we didn't discuss?
No, we already covered, the big item was Hutton Brickyard, we already covered that. 264 Lucas is still on the agenda. And they had presented to the Council Finance and Audit Committee as well. I'm not sure where that's going. That's they were seeking something resembling a pilot. That's what it sounded like to me. And they were sent back for further review. And I don't have an update on where 264 is at. It'll be on the planning agenda though.
I thought they said explicitly that they weren't seeking a pilot.
Yeah, I know that, but listen to them carefully. They're looking for, tax breaks, Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they may not call it a pilot, but if it quacks like a duck, maybe it's a goose, I don't know. Maybe it's a brant.
Okay, public safety, you don't know anything about public safety, right? Michelle's not here.
Okay.
Zoning, Kevin, anything else about zoning that we didn't discuss already?
Well, we covered Dover Coal already, I believe, earlier on, and Tanya made comment on it, and I think that's where we're at for the moment.
Kevin, what's the time frame on that? Is there a schedule of when they're going to start and how long it's going to take?
There is a time frame, but I don't have that handy. It's going to take some time because they're going to have to do public. That was one of the issues that came up, was public comment.
Mhm.
That's the biggest financial component of this thing is the public comment. More so than John Nolan drafting a code with David Gilmore and Dover and Cole. It's yeah. That's the whole
So I
point.
mean, like, is it 5 years? Is it?
Oh, no. I think they're looking, within 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe Tanya, do you want to correct me? Are you there?
Well, I think it was something like that, a year and a half or two. They have it
Yeah.
in the proposal, it's spelled out what the estimate is. Of course, that
Mhm.
always changes in the end. But one of the things that the Common Council discussed was trying to stretch it out a little bit, because some of the members were concerned that they wanted to have some of it be done not on Zoom meetings.
Right.
So, I mean, there'll be stakeholder meetings and there'll
Mhm.
be lots of studying of past plans and such, but then the charrette will be, I think, like a bunch of days. And so, um, and I think they build upon each other, the charrettes. So there's a lot of planning beforehand, speaking to certain groups and stuff and studying the plans to get ready for it. But the charrettes, I think, are the biggest public engagement part. And I think they happen in a small space from me reading the plans. And also I've watched some videos on charrettes and how they're done. Dover Cole actually does a bunch of webinars. They're on webinars all the time talking about charrettes. But the Common Council did talk about wanting to stretch it out a little bit so that,
Okay.
but I don't know. But it's in the summer. If we have it in the summertime, maybe it doesn't need to be stretched out.
Okay. Anything else on zoning?
The only other thing was Dover Coal had featured Kingston on their website at some point during this recent process. So
Okay.
they're interested. They're really interested in doing this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent Dover and Coal to, both of them to the Common Council.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Climate Smart. Kevin, do you want to give an update or do you want me to?
If you want to start, I've got to go grab the minutes for that, which are,
A couple major things that we talked about were what we're going to do this year. We're not having Earth Fair. So there's going to be kind of a series of different things happening. Earth Week, which is next week. The mayor is going to launch the Pizza Box campaign on Earth Day itself. We now have about half a dozen or more pizza places that have committed to putting the stickers on the boxes that say these are not recyclable. So that's going to be a big push next week. Climate Smart is going to be at next week's farmers market on the 24th, having people pledge, make an Earth Day pledge for different, and you're going to have an interactive map for pledging things like composting or Meatless Monday, or, you know, riding a bike one day, or, you know, simple pledges that folks can make. And also, the Climate Smart Commission has been helping to shepherd through the New York Energy Stretch Code, and that went through to the council and was adopted. So the city now has adopted New York Energy Stretch Code, and that is a more stringent energy code for construction, and that went into effect as of April 7th, just a few days ago. And because of that, and a number of other clean energy actions, my department here has submitted to NYSERDA for submission for the New York, or the NYSERDA leadership round for clean energy communities. So we're hoping to hear soon about eligibility for that, which would make us eligible for up to $125,000 for a sustainability project around the city. And then we talked about the climate action plan to kind of give you just a quick update there. And that's basically it. I mean, I probably gave an update on sustainability projects. LED project is complete. All the parks projects are ramping up. You've seen construction soon. Construction at Kingston Point is actually happening starting in May. I received all the bids today, and I got 11 bids for that construction project. The construction at all the parks that are getting new playgrounds will happen anytime now, sometime between now and May.
let's see, what else do we have?
The organics diversion plan is still being drafted.
Yeah, and, oh, Julie, the at the Heritage Area Commission, we approved the coastal review on a couple, on the Block Park and Kingston Point Park.
Yes, great. Sue told me, she said she's just getting signatures on that, so.
Yeah, I added one comment on Kingston Point Park to, to, just to make sure that in the review, it's noted that there is a consideration of sea level rise, because when Sue did the initial rough up, she didn't mention sea level rise. So I wanted to make sure that we're acknowledging that.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't change the review at all, or it wasn't a condition like we did on Hutton Brickyard. It wasn't that. It was just, it was an acknowledgement.
Anything else I missed, Kevin, on that?
I have the minutes open. Let's see, we did the leadership round. We covered, let's see. Serena discussed a land bank meeting. With regards to an enterprise grant tie-in to green jobs. So I will have to follow up with Serena Pepper on that as to where that's at. And Cal Truman was discussing,
Maritime Museum.
yes, the Maritime Museum Climate Change Exhibit opening, yes.
So there's gonna be a climate change exhibit at the Maritime Museum, and Climate Smart is gonna be providing feed for that, so that it'll be kind of interactive and tied into the local community as much as possible. All right.
Yeah, I think that's sort of it for that. Repair Cafe was mentioned. Melissa Hayasheta, has discussed the status of the Repair Cafe, since we don't have John with us anymore.
Yeah, repair cafes are on hold at this point because no one wants to have
Right.
a live repairs.
I think that covers, I think we've gone through it.
Okay. Emily, any updates from the EMC that we haven't discussed already?
Sure. So yes, I guess we did have a speaker, civil engineer that is working with the Hudson 7 on drinking water to talk about the Champlain Hudson Power Express. And the drinking water municipalities are concerned about the sediment and turbidity that might be raised while they are burying the cable. And so, he just talked about that project, and but the burying of the cable is a one-time thing, and that there won't be turbidity raised at other times. And I just, it's my personal opinion that it's just really important for community outreach on projects that have actually been, this project was okayed by President Barack Obama, because it was an international thing. So it's been in the works a long time, since 2010 or so. And in terms of the Water Quality Committee meeting yesterday, there was some discussion about, how we can work more on stormwater. And the EMC continues to follow the Dan Scammer issue, which I cannot report on because I don't follow it very closely. And then the Tree Commission, should I segue to the Tree Commission? The Tree Commission, so I'd never really gone to a Tree Commission meeting, and they discussed giving permission for trees to be taken down. So there were specifically four trees that they okayed to come down. And then they discussed Arbor Day, and that the Memorial Tree Commission donates has money to donate for the planting of the tree. And I believe that the Memorial Tree Commission is not confined to the city, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the 2 trees are going to go to Miller. And Tanya, do you remember the other one? Scott, Bailey, I think Bailey. And, you know, so then, so there's going to be some kind of Arbor Day program. And that's where Tanya already brought it up, but I just asked if the tree commission or the city was tracking new trees that were planted, because there is such a high goal for the open space of 1,000 trees a year. And there was comment that that was a really big number, and I just said, well, I understand that, you know, the city or the tree commission wouldn't be tracking trees that were planted in people's backyard, but would they be, and basically, would they be tracking any of these other ones? And part of that answer was yes, because they report to the Arbor Day Foundation, and then any inventory. But that again is kind of like when people apply to take a tree down, they don't have to put a tree back. No, it's not one-on-one.
You have to put one back, or they have to pay.
They do.
They have to put one back, or they have to pay $250.
That's not what she told me. She said it was only a recommendation
Well,
that they plant a tree.
okay.
But that's okay.
I mean, it's not
That's
mandatory.
not what that's not, anyway, okay. And Tanya, you may remember more, but
Susanna has said that multiple times. Suzanne Cahill, the director of planning and the staff support for the tree commission, has said on multiple occasions, we can ask them to, but we can't require them to. And she never mentions the $250. And I think that, I mean, they have started to talk about, they're dividing up, checking on the trees afterwards and seeing what is coming up after that. But that is a big point that they really, I don't think they don't use that at all. In fact, they don't even talk about that $250 requirement. It really could get some more people to replant a tree. And they're not, and I asked for the updated inventory because she had said that they do keep track of it in different ways, and in the parks and on the street sidewalks, and that they update the inventory from the parks, but they don't have an updated inventory. So it might be worth continuing on with.
yeah, and anyway, and then the big one, the big outreach right now is, or the Engage Kingston thing that's related to that is the Foxhole project. So if you want to go in and look at the Foxhole project, that's on Engage Kingston, right?
Yes. Okay. Anything else on the tree commission? Any
Oh,
other?
they did talk about when they were going to meet and whether or not that time was still good, and everyone seemed to be okay with it.
Okay.
Which is 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a weekday.
Okay. All right. Any other?
Did we have any, we didn't have it, Lorraine, you didn't have anything on complete streets, right? Okay,
No, she said they haven't met.
No, nothing this time, Kevin.
okay. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss something.
No meeting yet.
Okay. Any other reports or updates? If not, we need a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Motion,
I motioned.
okay, you motion. I'll second.
Oh, okay. So Emily, Kevin
Emily,
second it. Any discussion or concern about adjourning? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
And
Okay.
I got 7:50, so we got the
7:50.
time this time. Okay,
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
stop recording.
okay.